You just realize very quickly that this guy is just going to revert to his class interests at the end of the day, despite all the counterculture BS that he promotes. This is somebody who is a boss and thinks like one.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Matt, you mentioned Dave Rubin's plea to Elon Musk to discipline him harder, and that is something that's been happening a lot. This is a sentiment that's been that has been echoed across the right-wing / dude bro podcasting space, and we've got this clip from Joe Rogan that you tweeted out, Matt, where he talks about. He just kind of goes on a rant about human nature. So, Adam, let's play that clip from Joe Rogan.
All right, I can't wait to learn about human nature from Joe Rogan.
Today, the left has gone so fucking far left, so radical, that the right are the ones that are celebrating comedians and celebrating Chappelle.
Yeah,
they had my back through all the crazy shit that happened with me. It was Fox News that fucking had my back.
Would you ever think that they would be the ones to cape for you, like, 10 years ago?
I'm so liberal.
Yeah,
like, I talk about it all the time. Like, I say I am not a conservative. I'm not conservative. But I am pro Second Amendment, and I am a hunter, and I am a cage fighting commentator, and I drink and I smoke cigars, and I like to bow hunt.
Yeah.
So there's a lot.
Now, just pause it just for a second, because up to this point, this is not necessarily like.
I believe that there's a boy. I'll tell.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. If you could rewind it for just to when you start it back, because that up to that point, he's like, okay, you're pro Second Amendment. That's arguably a right wing position, but everything else is not like a right wing thing. He's like, I'm not conservative, but all of these like cultural things that are oftentimes associated with conservatives, but like, I'll smoke a cigar and I like to drink and I wouldn't mind I wouldn't mind going bow hunting. Like, I don't have a bow, but if somebody wanted to take me bow hunting, I'd be like, well, hell yeah, let's fucking go. These are not conservative things. These are just like things. I don't know.
Yeah, like it might skew, hunting might skew Republican a little bit, but like if you come from a hunting background, you know that they're fucking Democrat hunters.
Right.
Right. And I think Joe experiences going out with, like, and maybe it's not Trump Jr., but those types of folks. And you think it's just like an exercise in right-wing ideology. Right.
I mean, I love, like, smoking a cigarette with a glass of with a glass of bourbon. Like, that's so much fun. I love that. And if you bring me a cigar, you bring me a fancy ass cigar, I would like it even more, but I'm like just a poor person, right? But it's so that was just such a bizarre collection of statements that he put as a juxtaposition to I'm not conservative, but all of these things, and like, that doesn't make you a conservative, like liking to drink and liking to smoke. That doesn't make you conservative. Mm-hmm. But let's go ahead and play the rest of that clip, because he gets into human nature after that.
All right, and just bear with me as I try to get us back to that right spot.
Today, the left has gone so fucking far left, so radical, that the right are the ones that are celebrating comedians and celebrating Chappelle.
Yeah,
they had my back through all the crazy shit that happened with me. It was Fox News that fucking had my back.
Would you ever think that they would be the ones to cape for you, like, 10 years ago?
I'm so liberal.
Yeah,
like, I talk about it all the time. Like, I say I am not a conservative. I'm not conservative. But I am pro Second Amendment, and I am a hunter, and I am a cage fighting commentator, and I drink and I smoke cigars, and I like to bow hunt. Yeah. So there's a lot in there that's like, hey,
crossover.
Yeah, but it's just being a human. But I'm a compassionate person, and I believe that there's I'll tell you what, though. One thing that happened during this pandemic was it opened my eyes about human nature. Like, I used to be very pro universal basic income. My thought was, wouldn't it be great if you just had enough money so you could eat and you could pay your rent, and then you could pursue what you wanted to? But the reality of human nature came fully into focus when I realized that when some people got all that money from the government, the COVID money, and then they got unemployment, they didn't want to work. I have a friend who has a restaurant. He could not get people to come back to work. Yeah. And so one buddy of mine, a bartender told him, I can come back to work, but I can only work for 20 hours a week, because that way I get unemployment. So he wouldn't work more than 20 hours a week so he could get free money. So he could have made more money but he didn't want to because he didn't want to work. So he was getting that free money, and then my friend was like, "What the fuck, man?"
Yeah.
Like, okay. Like, and now he's always short-staffed, and it's a mess.
Yeah.
Like, you see a lot of people that own businesses that have a hard time finding people work for them. So there's pros to that, right? The pros are people. It's a marketplace that favors the worker, so workers can ask for more money. So you're seeing a lot of places like bars and restaurants and stuff that have to pay more money per hour, which I guess is good as long as the restaurant can stay open.
Well, I'm glad he thinks it might be good if we get a raise. It's wild that this guy is supposed to be like counterculture.
Yeah, I mean, like I told you on Twitter, Matt. Like
that ain't the counterculture I grew up with.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell my buddy who owns a bar. Like, how many people just have a buddy that owns a bar? I have buddies who bartend, and you can just tell who he runs around with and who he empathizes with, and he kind of. He walked back a little bit towards the end where he was like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's good. He said maybe it's good that workers are getting more money. But you can tell he's really, really empathizing with the poor bar owner who, this guy only wants to work 20 hours a week, which if you give me a bartender and she would work full time if you paid them enough. But I would be willing to bet I would not be unsurprised if his bar owner buddy is only paying these people like $2 an hour, right?
Yeah,
and they're making their living on tips.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's tough for Joe because compassion is a really difficult thing to sort of exercise when you have to be compassionate on the one hand for hungry people that want to like live their lives, and on the other hand, you have to be compassionate for bar owners who need drinks made. And I think, I mean, the beautiful thing about this clip is, like you say, it starts with the social issues, but often it just stays there. And it's just like, hey, I agree with you on all this stuff. I'm one of you guys. Very rarely does it go like, but on the economic issues, particularly when it comes to coercion of the labor force, I am not on your side anymore. Like, it makes things very clear, and there's not a whole lot really of commentary, except there's one thing I do want to add before I let David go, is that Joe Rogan co-founded a company called On It Labs, which makes, you might have heard of Alpha Brain, and then some other like shroom tech mushroom type of sport supplement. That was bought by the Unilever Corporation. Nonetheless, that got $2.4 million in PPP granted to them for Give loans. So when Joe comes about like the government giving money out to folks and what that does to their motivation, well, it's On It Labs. What are they doing now? Are they just sitting on their ass because they got free government money, or are they trying to come out with that next alpha brain iteration that's really going to help people focus on their Joe Rogan podcast?
And I mean, I just add because I think that the whole clip, I think it's worthwhile because it's very revealing of the mentality that Joe Rogan has, as y'all are noting, with the social issues. And then immediately when it comes to anything that's political, it's this kind of anti-worker tirade. But let's also interrogate this example for a second. I don't know where his bar owner friend is, but I know here you can't deny work and get unemployment. Right. So because the unemployment system in this country is actually set up to just carry you and put you in a position where you actually lose your right to say no to work. So
the Alabama Department of Labor sent out a notice to members of all the Chamber of Commerces across the state and business owners to hey, here is the place that you report people for refusing to work so that we can take them off of the unemployment rolls. They're very serious about this.
And here it's humiliating. My mother lost her job during the pandemic. My mom is one of the hardest working people I know. She's worked 60 hours a week, wage labor, her entire life. And first time in her life, she needed something like that. And you know what they make you do here is, on top of not being able to refuse work, they make you get set up with a counselor who teaches you work ethic, right? Which is just so insulting as a concept. But like, you know, like the kind of picture that you get from guys like Joe, is like, it just again shows like, you know, you're talking about like what kind of guy has like, you know, is friends with the owners, right? It also shows that like you don't know anybody in that system, because anybody who knows how that system works would be able to tell you straight up, no, it doesn't work like that.
Right.
And like maybe that conversation happened. You know, like I was saying to Matt on the show, like, you know, sometimes people think like, oh, I can't get I'm going to deny a raise because my taxes will go up, right? You know, and that's not true, right? It's not how it works, you know, but sometimes people might think that. So like, you know, maybe the conversation did happen and it's not just a made up thing. But again, it just shows what side of the conversation that Joe and his cohort are on here very clearly.
Right.
Yeah,
And I
some
will
of us
just say,
have
it's been
actually
very
tried to
heartening.
do unemployment, and it's not a fucking generous giveaway.
Yeah.
But I don't make millions of dollars talking about dudes fighting each other and having a podcast. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Matt,
I
you were
will
gonna
just say, finally, it's been heartening to see his Reddit sort of turn on him on these sorts of questions. That's
that's good to hear.
People are out there. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, because the people who are bow hunting and smoking cigars and drinking bourbon probably are closer to the unemployment rolls than they are to the PPP loans, man.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm thinking about like I worked at a sports bar. I don't know, about 10 years ago when UFC was like really hitting it big. It seemed to be kind of the peak of its popularity. And I think back to the crowds we would get for the big fight nights. Everybody'd show up on Saturday nights to see the pay-per-view at the bar. Yeah, not many millionaires among that crowd. It all seemed like, you know, working class folks for the most part. And I just, you know, I don't see where many of them are getting these handouts. I'm glad you mentioned the PPP loans, because if there were any just, you know, the government throwing money at people, it was that.
Right.
You know, we know about, you know, tens of millions of dollars in fraud, and that's just what we know of. There, God only knows how much money just disappeared into people's pockets through that. And it wasn't, you know, everyday people, normal, regular working people. We were not having money thrown at us. If we did, I missed the fucking boat on that. Someone find it for me, because I didn't get that. You know, we got our little measly stimulus checks that weren't even as much as what we were promised, and you know, got the child tax credit for 6 months. It was nice. It was better than what I'd been getting. But to act as if like that somehow was throwing money at me and discouraging me from working hard, it shows that he is not living in that world. He probably doesn't have anyone close to him who's living in that world. And I'm sure, you know, he's been a millionaire for a long time. So, you know, maybe he remembers back in his early days what it was like to really have to sell your labor to survive. But
well, and you know, I mean, on the factual question of what he was talking about, he was like, well, I used to support UBI because, you know, maybe that would give people a chance to pursue their passions, so that maybe they wouldn't be so tied to, you know, they can better themselves or something. And that's exactly what people, you know, by and large, the reason that low-wage employers are having difficulty filling jobs is because workers who had those kind of jobs took the time that they were on unemployment to better themselves, to maybe get an education, to get a different job, to go into the trades, to get something that was a more reliable, you know, that to go up into a better paying industry. There were early retirements. There were people, you know, we've had 1 million people die in this country, a lot of whom were workers, you know, and so that's exactly what you would expect if people took the money to do what he thinks he wanted people to do. It's just that's the consequence, is that people that he's friends with are going to have a more difficult time finding workers who are willing to toil for nothing.
Yeah,
it seems.
I mean, that's the end game there, and it's like, it's funny to see where his sympathy ends. Right? It's like, oh, I've had to wait a little bit longer for my barbecue. You know, actually, people shouldn't be able to eat and pursue their own interests anymore. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that's so disappointing about Rogan is that, like, you know, despite there, you know, being some moments when he was like sort of pushing Bernie, which I thought was helpful, you know, you just realize very quickly that this guy is just going to revert to the, you know, to his class interest at the end of the day, despite all the counterculture BS that he promotes. You know, this is somebody who is a boss and thinks like one.
Yeah, absolutely. And that ought to really reiterate to, you know, my hippie friends and brothers and sisters out there, just because someone like takes mushrooms doesn't mean they're going to be enlightened for the rest of their
Rick
life.
Perry is doing the mushrooms now. A lot of people, you know? Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, they'll take anything from us.
Nothing is sacred.
Nothing is sacred. Even our damn mushrooms, they will take them from us.
Yeah. You know, just one final note on the PPP stuff is, like, if you actually look at the CARES Act and like all the money that was spent, it's like, okay, this amount, this slice here, 2,000 a little bit for like checks given to people, and then like the extra a little bit for unemployment for certain people that got unemployed. That adds up to maybe like a couple thousand, and then it's over 10,000 per individual person per capita that was spent given to corporate America. And what the fuck, like, and now they're complaining that they don't know how to get people to work. It's like, cough it up, like that, right?
Yeah, and meanwhile, prices on the goods and services they provide have been skyrocketing. Yeah, I mean, all these things come, you know, a confluence of issues there. But yeah, the PPP part, I think that has just been memory hold for a lot of folks. It seems like that's been memory hold. We just focus on, don't you remember your stimulus check and the unemployment expanded benefits that so many people were never able to get in the first place.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a very important part of this equation.
Yeah. Matt, David, thank y'all for hanging out with us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for your time
Fun,
and your
guys.
patience, guys.
Yep.
Oh, of course, we always love talking with y'all.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.